Item frames just got a super big secret update that makes them so much cooler for putting details in your builds. So if you didn't know, you can actually place down an item frame with an item in it, and then put a pressure plate inside of it to make it look like the item's sitting on top of a pressure plate, with the item frame being totally not visible at all. And this would be a pretty cool building hack if it wasn't for a couple of problems. The first one is that item frames can actually hold down pressure plates, so when you touch this pressure plate, the pressure plate stays permanently pressed down, and then the back texture of the item frame ends up like clipping with the pressure plate, which looks really ugly. So it technically looks fine if you just avoid touching the pressure plate at all, but obviously eventually someone's just gonna brush past it and accidentally make it look ugly again. So what you might try to do instead is use something like a stone pressure plate, which doesn't actually stay pressed down by the item frame. But the problem with that is that the border here has the birch planks texture, and that obviously causes this Z fighting when it's unpressed as well. So unless you are somehow able to have a birch pressure plate that didn't stay pressed down, you're always going to have Z fighting with item frames in pressure plates. That is until 1.21.2. So in this version of the game, even if you have an item frame in a pressure plate and you press it down, there's no longer going to be that glitchy Z fighting. And if you have a stone pressure plate with an item frame inside of it, you can't even tell. The border isn't visible anymore when the pressure plate's unpressed. So now we can actually finally put item frames inside of pressure plates and use them for building. And here are a couple of examples I've made showing that off. So if you put an item frame inside of an iron pressure plate like this, it makes a really good looking plate. And you don't need any sort of mod that makes invisible item frames to do this. This is just something you can do in vanilla Minecraft right now. And maybe the iron pressure plate looks better when it's not pressed down, because then it just looks like a flat white plate with something on it, but you're gonna eventually tap it and press it down anyways. But I think it's honestly fine. It kind of looks like this is some sort of like border decoration on the plate, and I'm so psyched that we can now do this. And then over here you'll notice I have this little stone scene, like an example of what the floor of a cave might look like, and I've got a couple diamonds thrown on the floor here using some stone pressure plates. And that's already cool enough on its own, but if we take a look over here, if we have glow pressure plates in the dark, normally, they would just be entirely glowing with their back and everything, but if we use either a stone pressure plate in a cave, or in this case I have these polished black stone pressure plates here, it causes just the items to be glowing in the dark, which just looks super duper cool. I've gone ahead and pulled out all the cookies and I'm replacing them with eyes of ender, so that way when we close it back up with tinted glass, it looks like we have a bunch of these spooky glowing eyes in the dark. I think these are super cool. I'm sure there are so many more amazing things you guys will think of to do with this. I just can't even think of them right now. So go ahead and let me know what you plan on doing down in the comments below. And with all that being said, I will see you in the next one.